Jade Music Fest is grateful to be held on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples of the Musqueam Indian Band, Squamish Nation, and Tsleil-Waututh Nation. We acknowledge our privilege to be gathered on this land and commit to work with and be respectful to the Indigenous peoples whose arts and stories inspire us to bring communities together.
How's it going, everybody? Everybody make some noise one time. Sorry, I'm still in like a last night like energy a little bit, so just excuse me.
Oh no, it's perfect. Keep it going.
Yeah, I guess how should we get started?
Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna maybe we could like even survey the audience, or we could talk a little bit about how we got to where we are today. I don't know if there's anything that people are really interested in learning more about or finding out about.
Yeah.
It's pretty open. Cool.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll ask you a question.
Yeah, let's just
how
like
did
ease into it, actually.
yeah. So how did you get into music?
How did I get into music?
Yeah, loaded.
That's
question.
a pretty long story. Okay. I think early on, my mom, who's in here today. I think my mom's over there. Hi, mom. She knew that I was like kind of an artsy kid, like kind of just like as a kid, just always drawing a lot. Like everybody's eating, and then I'm the only person who's like drawing on the table, you know. So she knew that. I was like a bit more sensitive, I think. So she put me into like classical piano, of course,
Classic.
just like everybody, every other Asian, and yeah, like I took up piano, RCM, almost up to ARCT,
Trauma.
but but I didn't make it up to ARCT.
Oh, I didn't either.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, but yeah, so piano kind of just it was there early on, and it really just like taught me emotion and just how to be moved and how to move others. You know, like I never really like I think I was never a technical person, I'd say, but I think feel was always something super strong to me and something very, very sensitive to me. So anyways, like that's really how music kind of got embedded in me like early on. But like the hip hop thing kind of took a different turn early in high school. I'd say before high school, I had a stutter. So like speech impediment was like a pretty big deal to me. I think earlier on. I still have a stutter, but it's like I can kind of hide it sometimes, and I can kind of like I have like coping mechanisms to like make it smoother, right? But I think like earlier on, like stuttering was pretty hard for me to I think internalize. So I think internalizing that made me kind of turn inward into hip hop, especially because like as soon as like a beat, as soon as I can hear like kind of like a flow to it, everything just kind of comes out smoother.
Yeah.
So it was almost like that hip hop thing to me was like a calling to me because like everything, all my like frustrations, like anger, insecurities, anxieties, all kind of bled into the hip hop thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear, how you overcame certain struggles and then had it evolve into like this very cool musical art form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. How about you though?
So how did I start?
Yeah.
Similar origin story, I would say. I also started with piano. My dad was, I feel like I need to move this. I'm just gonna hold this because it's, okay. My dad was my piano teacher growing up and, throughout my early music days. And that, as much as I hated practicing scales and doing the RCM, I feel like it really helped me create this really strong foundation so that when I did go into music school, I had all this knowledge that could help equip me to communicate my musical ideas. So that was a big one. I fell in love with songwriting pretty early on. I think when I was a kid, I would be writing songs with my friends, thinking we were like gonna be the next whatever girl pop group or whatever. And then later on, I discovered I could write songs on the piano and sing, and that really changed things for me because it felt like I found an outlet beyond just writing in my diary to really express my my emotions and any inner turmoil that I was experiencing. Even things that are, you know, kind of like silly but more significant when you're a child, like, oh, I got into a fight with this friend, or, you know, I like this person, they don't like me back. Like silly things like that, which feel so symbolic when you're a kid. You know, songwriting helped me to channel that, and I felt that, you know, later on in my career, I continued to use songwriting to connect with others and to express things that I normally wouldn't be able to express outside of the music. So that's kind of how I continued with the music. Yeah.
Did you pick up like, what did you pick up first? Is it like piano or singing?
I think it kind of happened at the same time because I remember always singing, and I remember, you know, being a kid, like I think I was maybe 3 or 4, and you know, and anytime guests came over, my parents would be like, okay, like sing them a song. I'd sing like the My Heart Will Go On from Titanic. That was like my go-to 4-year-old, like
That's a
really
classic.
yeah,
That's a classic one.
just mildly out of tune, you know. And then yeah, and I guess it just kind of blossomed from there. I grew up singing in children's choirs, so that really helped me with ear training, helped me with this idea of connecting with others from music. So for me, music was always this group activity. It was always, you know, other people should be involved. It's not just you as a soloist, which I think is why, you know, now as a songwriter, when I do co-writes with people, I find it almost to feel like instinctive or like a reflex to be able to communicate with someone and understand their emotions, understand their story, and then convey that into music. So I think all these little experiences that we don't put much stock into when we're living them, they really make up who we are. And yeah, it's really cool, you know, to examine the journey and then see where we are now.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's maybe fast forward to the present.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what a cool thing to talk about would be. Maybe like, what do you value most in your work these days, or what we're valuing in our work these days?
Presently, I'd say like I've lately, since the pandemic, I've really kind of expanded and pivoted, not just like only hip hop artistry. So like what you saw last night, that was like kind of just like at least like over 10 years of just like kind of perfecting the crafts of like just like being on stage, just like everything about it, just the like crowd control, just like kind of gaining the instincts of what it's like to be on stage, and then also what it's like to be in the studio, because I've been doing it for a long time, right? So after the pandemic, though, I feel like I just became older, and I just kind of felt like it was a natural progression for me to kind of pass down what I picked up, you know. So like, I just noticed that there were a lot more other artists who were like asking me to like help them out or just give some insight and input, right? So, and I definitely saw like the real lack of just like infrastructure for us like here, especially in hip hop, just cause yeah, like hip hop here is not that big, anyways, and also just like I know like our Asian demographic here is big, but in terms of it being a receptive to hip hop, it's still something that's very like not that common. You know what I mean? So I've always been kind of pushing this Asian hip hop culture thing in like a pretty small like car. You know what I mean? And like trying to transport my art through. You know, so But lately, I've definitely been expanding into just other mediums of art, which is like film. So I'm definitely kind of concentrating more on that. Like I was able to do like a bigger documentary on a big budget scale 2 years ago, and that kind of put me on a path of kind of moving more into like putting stuff on screen, because I think the music stuff is like it's only a one piece of the puzzle to me. Like the whole scope of it is like all of it. You know what I
Whole
mean?
scope of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So yeah. So and then also going into the music mentorship thing. I've always been trying to build community, a support group here, and that just kind of came naturally too. I just found other like Asian artists, but not only Asian, who needed a bit more like of a push, and they weren't getting like the, I think, support from a lot of people. You know what I mean? So I just, it was like I was trying to make. I'm not trying to turn them into a group or anything, but it's more like everybody can like kind of share this communal thing, and kind of like everybody helps each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like witnessing your performance yesterday, with everybody there, it was such a strong sense of community and such a strong moment of, like there's just so much love on that stage, and like it was like every single person on that stage wanted the other person to shine up there, and I feel like that's such a special thing to come by, because in the music industry, there's this idea that you need to be cutthroat, that you need to be, kind of competing for that top spot. And, it's really not, that's really not a very healthy way to go about it. And I feel like what you are producing and what you're creating in this community is just so special and so necessary. Yeah. I feel like for me, like you were mentioning how there wasn't a lot of infrastructure for you when you were like growing up and coming up in the music scene. I feel like for me, anything that I do, I feel like I try to be the person that I wish I had when I was younger, because there weren't that many role models that looked like me. My teachers did not look like me. A lot of my peers did not come from a similar cultural background. So a lot of the values and the ways that I grew up kind of were lost on them, and it was hard to communicate, my struggles. So as an adult, I'm like, how can I be that person for my younger self and the other people who are up and coming now? How can I be a support for them? What are things I can do just by existing that can help them? And how do I, put my energy out into the community to provide support? Yeah.
I'd say like piggybacking off of that, I know you're in the education sector. Can you tell us more?
Yeah. So I do a few different things. Like I teach privately, but I also teach at the University of Toronto's jazz program. And I remember when I was in that program as a student, there was a lot of prejudice towards the singers and towards the women, and let's not, it's very intersectional. So for me, it felt like I checked all the boxes of being a minority. I was a singer, I was a woman of color, and so a lot of, I felt like I had to always do double to get any sort of respect from my peers and from my teachers. It wasn't enough that I just showed up and did the work. I had to just be beyond all of that, because I wasn't ever given the benefit of the doubt. But now as a teacher there, I'm always trying to push a greater sense of community among my students, and trying to erase some of the toxicity that had been there when I was a student. And I'm always encouraging others to, I think when I was in school, there was this idea that if someone didn't know something, they were dumb or they were of lesser value, which is so horribly toxic. So now, something I try to impress upon my students is, you all come from such vast, different musical and artistic backgrounds. If you know something and they don't, like that's an opportunity for you to share your knowledge or to learn something from them, rather than shut them down and make yourself feel above them, which was really prevalent at the time when I was going to school. So I'm hoping that the work that I'm doing is helping to erase that. Yeah.
Definitely. Like, I think me also moving into kind of being a catalyst or mentoring others is like it all came from just seeing the lack of something, you know,
Yeah.
just like a real shortage, or just like seeing the issues first, you know.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the work that we've been doing just almost comes out of this place of hurt. You know, I don't know if there are any experiences that you feel comfortable sharing, like where you felt that, I don't know, like there are some moments where I'm reminded like, oh yeah, like I am not afforded the same privileges as someone else might be afforded. And that sometimes you forget that, you know, you're so having so much fun, you're on the stage, you're like making connections. And then sometimes you're met with this experience where you're like, oh, right, there's still like racism in the world and there's still sexism. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything that you've experienced.
Yeah, I mean, just being in hip hop, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but I think over time I definitely realized that that would become like the thing, you know. I think my shortcomings, or what made me, I think earlier on, not good enough, or not like important to be supported, maybe, is was like I took all those things and I kind of like channeled it, and then somehow like I transformed it into something that I could like kind of use to like be more tangible with and like help others with. You know what I mean? So hip hop, like, just I think the essence of hip hop is grounded in like kind of having this. It's this like upheaval thing. You know what I mean? It's being tired of just being like held down. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if it's by other people, or if it's by like the system, or if it's by just like life. You know what I mean? It's like I just like when I'm on the mic, it's like I put all my pain into it. I don't. It's like it's my ultimate counselor in my therapy, because I couldn't pay for a therapy earlier on. You know what I mean? Or I couldn't pay for having a stuttering speech therapist. You know what I mean? So just like having a mic and then being at home and then recording myself, that even itself was like everything to me, because that was like how I could kind of speak to the world, you know what I mean, in a way. I didn't care how many people like heard it, but I could tell that the people that did hear it, like they were moved by it, I guess. So yeah, just like I think the path has always been quite lonely, but it's and that's the reason why I think I always have to pass the ball. You know what I mean? I think I just had to kind of like I just wanted to kind of help whoever else who had those like inner like demons inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel the same way about with songwriting. You know, when I write with another person, I feel like it is in its own form some sort of therapy, because it's an upheaval of emotions, and you're doing that in front of another person. It's very different from being alone and writing a song by yourself. Like when there are more than one person in the room, it's just it's kind of comforting. It's suddenly there's a person there to support you. So that's really cool. I wanted to just go off of what you were saying about creating something that like wasn't there, and something that was big for me, like checking out your stuff, was you have your academy, which is called Yellow Fire Academy. Yes. And I just love how it's so empowering, like using the word yellow, because I remember being a kid and people making fun of me for being yellow, and it was just it was a word that made me like feel like tight inside. Like it was a word that made me feel really like, oh, like I feel so like ashamed, or like I feel like this is something I shouldn't be proud of. And then to have you come out and be like very boldly like, we are Yellow Fire Academy, I'm like, yes, like we should be proud of this. Like this is like our identity. Like why hide behind it, or why try to like put it away. Yeah, so thank you for doing that.
No, thank you. But also I think another reason or why, or like the name or the meaning behind Yellow Fire is the yellow. Of course, it does signify like the more like obvious reason, But obviously, it's not exclusive to only yellow. It's to show that it's for everybody actually. But I saw the real need in trying to push it for the Asian based generations. But yellow to me actually means like on the traffic light. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of the in between stopping and going. And I think I was in that position a long time. You know what I mean? I was in that position of just kind of being stuck in between. So just that like hesitancy, like having a stutter is like mad hesitation. You know what I mean? It's like not smooth when you're talking and like being social. So hesitancy and just kind of being caught in between. I was always something that I always kind of like just kind of absorbed strongly. You know what I mean? So that was another reason why it was called yellow, basically.
Yeah, that's so sick. Like, I think that's just such a beautiful concept too, like the in between of the red and the green. And yeah, that's really cool.
But actually, I wanted to move into. So, how did it feel to win Juno Award?
Okay, let me like dissect this a little bit.
Y'all can make some more noise, like please.
It actually was less climactic than I had hoped because it was during the lockdown, so we couldn't like physically go to the Junos, which was kind of a disappointment, but you know, it is what it is. But I started working on this album with a friend of mine, Sammy Jackson, and it was actually an EP. It wasn't even a full album. And I co-wrote a lot of the music on the album, and she was like, you know, I'm gonna just submit it for consideration by the Junos, and we're like, cool, okay, that would be so fun. And then we got a nomination, and so that was already, we felt like we were already winners at that point, you know, because Diana Krall was also nominated, and like Layla Bialy was nominated, so we were like, we're good, we're happy. And then we won, and it was incredible. I mean, it happened over Zoom. I got to watch like the announcement over Zoom, but it was really cool. It won Best Vocal Jazz Album of the Year. We beat Diana Krall, which I still feel like that's fake. Like, I can't believe that happened. But yeah, it was a really amazing experience. You know, Sammy, I got to write with her, and we wrote about relationships. We wrote about like traveling, and about just overcoming struggles in friendships and in romantic relationships. And I feel like it was, you know, she poured her story out, and I was able to help her kind of piece it into a song. And that really, I guess it was very impactful because it won, and it was, I think a lot of people felt moved by the music. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. It's like, so in terms of collaborations, like how do you explain the process of like going into a collaboration?
I think initially I start just by having like a chat and just talking about, you know, what are some things that that you're feeling right now or today or the past week, you know, in the moment. Like, what have you been feeling? Or, you know, if we're working on a song, like, what do you want the song to be about? It feels like a very simple question, but maybe it's a relationship that you had that you want to explore, or maybe it's a feeling of nostalgia, or maybe it's, you know, a difficulty in an internal struggle that you're combating. So we talk about that, and then I get them to list some keywords. So I'll be like, you know, what are some emotions, or what are some, you know, verbs, adjectives, nouns that you can connect to this idea, and then we turn those into phrases, and then slowly we bring the music into it. So that's usually how it goes, and then it's just cool. It's kind of like I get them to give me the puzzle pieces, and then we assemble it, and then we have a final product. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you? Because I know, you know, you like, what are you doing in like your mentorships, and like I know you collaborate with people. Mm-hmm. You know, not necessarily, maybe not always co-writes, but you know, there's that sense of collaboration. How does that work for you?
Collaboration, it definitely has to come organically. I definitely can't like. Nowadays, especially, it has to just come out of just building a bond first, like even before stepping into a studio or even opening up like any project. it's just kind of having that bond first, I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
And just I think I've noticed after that bond is kind of like established and kind of there's been some growth to it. The music or whatever collaboration, it just kind of comes super natural, and I don't try to like put too much like emphasis or like control on it either. Like how I make my hip hop music, I say, is like it's like pretty simple because I also like produce beats and stuff. But lately, I just have other producers just like send me stuff. But I just like I turn on a beat. I'm always like a music person first, so I never come up with the lyrics first. You know what I mean? So like the beat is just playing on loop, and I just like I don't put anything down. So like I just like hear it, and then I just turn on the mic, and then I record a bar by bar. So
Nice,
I
yeah.
don't ever record like the entire like a section or like an entire song. I go like a line by line, and I've noticed how I do it like that is like it comes off a lot more natural to me because I've noticed because I used to do it the opposite way where I just like write down everything and then I practice it over and over and over
Yeah,
again like days ahead and then I go into it. But I've noticed just like it's a lot more natural how I sound if I don't put too many takes on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think going into collaborations, I just like email people back and forth. You know
I
what
love
mean?
that,
And then they
yeah.
just like send me stems. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is also just listening. You know, like everybody has a story, and if you just, if you let them talk and you're just listening, there's so much that comes out of that. Yeah, and I feel like, you do a great job of that. And I love that you take this organic approach. I feel like that's, before, a lot of it is improvisation, before the song is like set or before, the track is set, it's like you're improvising that in the moment. And it's so special because it's like, it's never been heard before. And then it's the first thing that kind of comes out of you. And so that's what you kind of stick with, right? And you come back to it. So I think that's what makes it such an authentic work of art.
Yeah, like I've definitely noticed that initial idea it's like the most pure, you know what I mean? So that that first take I usually do is the one I always like usually go with. Yeah, and I just can't overthink about it. You know what I mean? I can't overthink that initial instinctual feeling.
And usually our instincts are pretty good,
Yeah.
as long as we don't let that self-doubt, on our shoulder be like, no, it's not good. If we just toss that aside, I feel like, our instincts are quite good.
And that's another thing. Like, I have a lot of Chinese homies, and a lot of Asian homies actually. But like, I've noticed because like a lot of them kind of grew up in China and like kind of grew up in that like a system where it's like you have a lot of self-doubt on you and you have a lot of like self-guilt on you and just like kind of being kind of like held like this a lot, I think metaphorically. It was like super hard for them to really, I think, break out of that and kind of really show their inner emotions, inner everything, you know what I mean? So kind of like going through what I was going through and seeing all of them go through their journeys, it was like inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, it's also important to just there's like a fine line between self-doubt and like being humble. And sometimes I find myself like, in an attempt to be humble, it's like you kind of get into this self-deprecation mode, or you get into this the self-doubt mode. Like, how can I accept like this compliment when I'm actually not that good? And it's part of being an artist or a musician. It's overcoming that and just embracing embracing the good that comes your way and being confident in that without being not humble. But yeah, there's that fine line, and you don't want to fall too far deep into the self-doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know where we're at in terms of time, if we have to go into Q&A, or
Yeah, I have no sense
or
of
if
time
we
right now.
or if we want to talk a bit about, I don't know if we want to do like if you want to do a demonstration of like how you collaborate with people or something like that. Maybe we can involve some of our
Oh,
audience.
like the participation?
Yeah, that would be cool.
Crowd participation.
Yeah. If you were, let's say our audience today is like someone you're collaborating with, like how would you go about starting things off?
I would say we start with the beat first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Let's try like this. Can everybody like clap their hands, I guess? Okay, not
applause.
like that.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, I'll give you a beat and then everybody just clap to that, okay?
Yeah.
So just 1, 2, 3, 4, and then keep that going. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep that going. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, check. Yeah, Jack Teh is in the building today. Yeah, and we just chilling. We be brilliant today. Yeah, dreaming of like a million today. Yeah, 'cause tomorrow I might get a billion today. Hey, yeah, and all my Asian children brilliant today. Yeah, we gotta be building the way. Yeah, I don't know.
That's sick. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, would honestly be how like kind of I just start the collaboration just kind of from thin air. I think as long as there's some sort of pattern to it, it's just easy for anybody to just kind of get into that zone.
Yeah.
So yeah, like as long as there's like a groove to it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah.
For me, it's like I feel like I always kind of set like some sort of harmonic thing, and then yeah. But even beyond that, like if I was working with you, I'd be like, oh, like what do you want to write about today's scope?
Oh, that's another thing. I don't ever go into it like, oh, what do I want to like talk about?
Oh, okay.
It's more like, if I would actually like build with you, it's more like we just like play music, like other songs.
Yeah.
I'm into just like building like a playlist.
Yeah.
Of like stuff that you're into.
Yes, yeah,
and then
like
stuff
kind of
that
like a
I'm
mood
into.
board.
Yeah, and then we just play them back and forth almost.
Yeah, I love that.
And then kind of after that, it's pretty natural just to like kind of hone in on like a certain sound. And then if it comes to like lyrics and like words, those things come to me last because I care more about how they sound as opposed to what they mean, because I think honestly meaning to me is like it can be shaped and bent pretty elastically, I feel. But to me, in terms of the sound of it, that I think there's more like importance in that, in how it kind of like accompanies like the other elements of the music. So yeah, definitely how I approach like the lyric portion is I go off how it sounds.
That's so cool. Yeah. I'm so much more like I feel like for me it's like that emotion. Like if I was working with you, I'd be like I'd listen to what you've got and then just kind of pull out any keywords from like anything that you were working on, and then try to pull out like what kind of the underlying emotion is. Yeah, and then that I would go off and create words or melodies that match that. Yeah.
How do you, so like if you're on the piano, do you just like kind of just start playing it?
Yeah, I do. I do just kind of start playing it. I mean, I usually kind of ask like, oh, is this a slow vibe? Like, is it sad? Do you want it like old school? Do you want it to be like upbeat? Like, what is what is the energy that you're going for? And from there we'll we create that canvas, and then from there we throw on the words. Yeah.
Awesome. I wanted to ask, like, have you experimented with like other
Yeah, I've
other
worked.
like
I mean,
sounds or
I've worked
anything?
with hip hop artists. Usually, it's because they've got the verse, and then for me, maybe I'll make a verse as well to kind of match the energy, and then or I'll create the hook and
Yeah.
just go with that. So that's like a lot of fun. I love doing that because the beat is there, the foundation is there. So I
Yeah.
just get to play. Really, I get to just hang out.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I would add to your making billions today to
Yeah.
your to what you initially started.
Making billions today.
Yeah, the demo that you
Can
did.
you make a little hook
A little hook.
off making billions
Yeah, like
today?
a ooh, I want that money. Let me get that bag.
Hey.
Ooh, I want
Hey.
that money.
Hey.
Let me get that bag and it'll
Hey.
flow and let it go. And we can flow
Let
out
it
here
flow.
with scope. Yeah.
That's how we roll. What you know, that's how we go. So what you know. Jack Teh in the building.
Yeah.
That was dope.
Yeah, so, just kind of sometimes you could be silly with it too and then see what you want to keep or I love taking, that organic approach and then seeing what parts I want to keep and what parts I can add to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are we in that Q&A time? Yeah?
Sure.
Yeah, did we just want to open up the floor?
So, anyone want to ask question? You need to raise your hand higher because I cannot see you because I don't have sunglasses. Okay, you. Yes.
All right. Question for both of you. How are you marketing and getting your music out to the masses?
Marketing. I would say, I'll be honest with you, that was the thing that I was not as strong in, definitely. Like marketing was like, I was an artist, you know what I mean? Like I was just more really concentrating on just making the music part. But I definitely noticed like marketing is like half the battle, you know, especially now, you know what I mean? Like everything is like marketing now. So I think like over the course of my journey, my marketing has always been what I can provide to any project, whether it's in the music or the film or the like industry initiative stuff. It's like whatever the scope brand can provide, that's what scope is. You know what I mean? So I'd say the marketing, like to me, I never popped off on Spotify in terms of the music. I never had huge hits. I never had huge like any like numbers. But I was just able to just keep doing small shows and kind of marketing off just organizing these like super tiny intimate shows. It didn't matter if it's like 3 people there or like 10 people there or 20 people. But that was my marketing, you know what I mean? Just like kind of show them and do it lead by example because I wasn't good at like selling myself in terms of just like talking about like my art, I guess, even though I'm here right now. But yeah.
Talking
But I
about your
think
art.
like just like selling my art. I think I would rather just kind of show it to you as in it, you know what I mean? So that was always kind of like my marketing plan, just like do as many like like shows or like activities as possible. You know what I mean?
I feel like with like you were saying, like selling yourself. I think with the marketing, it's really tricky to stay authentic and keep yourself afloat as an independent artist while also taking into account the marketing aspect of things. I remember one time I had like this one TikTok video do really well,
Yeah.
and then I felt like I just fell into this cycle of like I need to create content and I need to just keep cranking it out, and it was just so toxic, and I wasn't even making art that I cared about. I was just I need to put stuff, like I need to have stuff out there, and it's tricky because if you talk to any big labels or big like A&R sort of companies, like they will, tell you like, oh, you just need to make content, and if we like you, we'll find you. And I feel like that's such a toxic thing to be telling, young up and coming artists. I love that for you, marketing is whatever project you have a hand in. And I think, the most rewarding connections I've made are not necessarily the ones where I'm like, oh, I got so many views and engagement on this video. It's, oh, I came to this show and I got to talk to, I don't know, like a handful of people, and they really connected with my music. And that way, as you're building, for lack of a better term, like as you're building your following, it's real and it's genuine and it's human. And it's not just, you're not treating people like numbers, and you're not, doing it for the clout. But, I think I love that, your marketing is about the art first. And yes, like maybe that's a naive way of looking at it. But I think it's a human way to move forward. And for me, as an independent artist, we do everything ourselves. Like the marketing, there's always the option of hiring a team and getting them to do that for you, which is nice if you have the funding for it, or if you apply for a grant to get some of that funding. But generally it's like, I'm putting the stuff on Instagram, and I'm making the posters for my shows, and I'm updating my website, and I'm putting out like stuff for my music and telling people to listen to my music, and making videos being like, oh, this song is about this, like go check it out on Spotify. So it's that's how I go about it. But I think the best marketing is when I am on the project, or when I'm at the show and I'm meeting the people.
And obviously that's not to say that content is not important. Content in this day and age is just part of the game, and you do, I think, have to kind of like play that part of the game, just as long as it's not like kind of overtaking your main priority, I think. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Thank you very much. And Charlie?
I just want to use this opportunity to kind of promote our afternoon session with NXNE, Michael Hollett. He's actually talking about exactly the thing that you just talked about. How do artists present themselves? And one of the things he told me is actually personal stories. People care about stories, and sometimes that's the best marketing that we all can do. So I just want to share that with our audience.
Absolutely, thank you.
Absolutely, because like actors, other musicians, like only like I get put on to other new people by like actually checking out their interviews like first often. So I often I kind of gravitate to who they are first, and then I hear their art. You know what I mean? And then that makes me really engaged in it. So I definitely agree with that.
Good. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, please. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
Who is my idol? I don't think I have an idol, bro. but I have a lot of influences from Bruce Lee to Steph Curry to Kobe to my mom, of course, to my dad, to all the hip hop artists. Just like my idol is probably like life, I say. That's my idol. You know what I mean? Because my life has kind of taught me everything.
Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yes, please. And you go next.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you both for your performances last night. By the way, I have
Thank you.
Lioness, Lionless stuck in my head.
Yes, sir.
And I just wanted to, so I'm a real lifelong champion of Canadian music, arts, and culture. And I just wanted to express some gratitude for the spectrum of talent and influence in this country, and to be sitting here in the Pacific Northwest at this festival talking about hip-hop and jazz, I'm so filled with joy and gratitude about it. You both shared a little bit about your experiences coming into music and learning, and you both mentor and educate as well. I'm wondering if you could share some of what you see as further boundaries and barriers that can be dismantled for the next generation to thrive.
I think, one big barrier is, of course, just money. I work on, you're like, yeah, same. I work in a nonprofit, and we provide, our goal is just providing free arts education to kids who would normally not be able to afford it. And, so that's, I guess, step one, right? Like, not everybody is able to afford piano lessons. Like, I got piano lessons because my dad taught me piano. So that was huge for me. And I got a huge leg up from that. But I think getting those formative experiences is so integral, and breaking down boundaries. I know I'm from Toronto, and I know, I don't know what it's like here, but I know in Toronto, like, there have been such severe cuts to music education and just arts education in general in the public school system. So kids just aren't getting as much of that engagement, like, compared to when we were kids. I remember music school and getting to pick an instrument, or sorry, not music school, music class, and getting to pick an instrument. And a lot of schools don't even have music instruments for the kids anymore. And so they're missing out on this, and it just kind of creates this huge barrier to even knowing music. So things like what you're doing, just creating infrastructure for kids to have access to music is really big. And then even when you pass that threshold of being a student of music, and you start seeing yourself as a professional, as an artist, without the support of like a label, there's also, you yourself, like, having to find funding. Yeah. Luckily, there's so many grants and things like that you can apply for, but it's still shaky, right? There's nothing is set in stone. So
yeah. The grant thing, I think grant support was a big deal to me, because I think just being in Canada, like, the Canadian, like, system in terms of, like, a support is a pretty good. I think just like organizations like Canada Council for the Arts, like Factor, Creative BC, you know what I mean? Like, has helped me a lot. So I think if you pay your taxes, just like, you should definitely think about just like applying, because also I think applying grants is like, it helps you really flesh out your project too.
Yes.
Like, I don't even understand my project until I actually apply the grant, because kind of going through it, understanding your whole budget, expense, everything, project plan, project timeline, all of those things are super important, and that's kind of how you approach grants, I feel, you know what I mean? You really have to kind of like have a pretty good understanding of how you can kind of execute a project, you know what I mean? So I would say grant support and funding is a big thing to look into, especially if you're in Canada and you either have like PR or are Canadian citizen, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I hope that answers. Okay.
Yeah. And I saw some hands on the back. Yes, please.
Hi there. Just one for scope. I want to thank you for openly discussing your issues as a kid and potentially your stutter. I think it's a really important message. I work with diverse kids most of my adult life, and I know a lot of kids have difficulty looking to find an answer. Maybe maybe they can't afford speech therapy, and they come to people such as yourself. They're in the limelight. They see that you've overcome challenges, and that they can too. So thank you for giving me.
It doesn't even have to be said, bro, because it's just like, just like stuttering. I think early on as a kid, just I had like the lowest like self-esteem. I couldn't get a girlfriend. Just like, I didn't want to talk to girls, because just like and also my stutter was like, it wasn't even that bad. It was really the self-anxiety, just like being closed in, that was preventing myself from even like socializing. So I think stuttering to me showed me I was just getting in my own way a lot of the time. It wasn't even my stutter that was even that bad, or other people even like, sometimes people can't tell that I have a stutter, you know what I mean? So just like it was me blocking myself, you know what I mean? Like from just ordering like the food that I want, because I knew I would stutter over this word, so I wouldn't pick that like thing that I wanted to eat. You know what I mean? So I would pick the alternate thing. You know what I mean? So it's like small things like that kind of made me just like kind of end up in the place I was at. You know what I mean? But yeah, so stuttering, I could go on about this a long time. So Yeah, I'll end it at that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? No more questions? Then I have a question for Jacqueline. So when you compose the music, and then we always say like we need an inspiration, right? So where do you get those melody or those like inspiration from?
I think sometimes we forget that songwriting and the creating is it's kind of like a muscle that needs to be exercised. So the same way that if you were a classical pianist and you're practicing your movement 2 or whatever of your sonata, and you're really getting that in your muscle memory, it's the same thing with songwriting. It's something that you just have to do to get better at. So I remember a couple years ago I kind of forced myself to write 1 song a day for a month. And it was great because I was no longer having to rely on getting inspiration necessarily. I was forcing myself to create. And so that helped me eventually get over writer's block. And it's not like every song was amazing. Sometimes you write a song and you're like, this is silly, or this is not something that I would ever put out into the world. But you're doing it and you're flexing that muscle and you're developing the skills to just be able to write on a dime, and also improvisation. So I come from a jazz background, and so a lot of the singing that I do is improvisation, and that really lends itself well to songwriting, because when you're coming up with a phrase for the first time, it is improvisation. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. It's like we need to go to the mentor gym every day.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to. Oh yes, please. Let's do.
That's such a good question. I have to think.
Yeah. I can't just pick one. That's so hard.
I know. I feel like I've thought about this, and then one person I'd really like to collaborate with is like Anderson .Paak, or Jacob Collier would be really cool. Yeah, and then there's somebody else. If I had to pick one though. Yeah, Alicia Keys would be really cool. That would be a cool person. Yeah.
I think just off the top of my head, because if I keep thinking about it, I'm not gonna give you an answer. Just because there's like too many. You know what I mean? I say Flying Lotus.
Oh yeah.
Because currently that's the shit I'm on. Like I'm kind of moving into the experimental tip in terms of the audio. So I think Flying Lotus is definitely somebody I look up to, just because of like what he's also doing in like movies, and like kind of like doing other stuff that's like super dope. So yeah, Flying Lotus.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. And I saw another hand. Yes, please.
Question for Jacqueline. Can you describe your recording process when you go into the studio? For example, how long you go to the studio? How do you work with the engineer? Are you doing your own instrumental?
Sure. So for my own stuff that I've released, where it's like my music as a solo artist, I actually don't go to a legitimate studio. It's usually all just at home with equipment that I have or that my producer has, or that I borrow from a friend who helps me record. And then in terms of like backing track, a lot of that is done with music software, something like Logic, or some people use Ableton, whatever floats your boat, and then all the vocal backgrounds are added. So that's like more so for kind of like a more pop or solo artist stuff. And then when I'm recording with a band for studio time, we base it on how many songs. So sometimes if you're very well rehearsed, you could within 2 hours maybe even do like 3 songs. And I try to avoid doing like a full day of recording, just because it can be very mentally exhausting, like beyond just like the physicality of it, just mentally exhausting. And a lot of the music I do does have like improvisation in it, so sometimes you do reach like a point of being too tired. So we'll do that, but a lot of the recording I do, there's a lot of stuff done in post, and I'm sure you are the same as well. Like I do a lot of my background vocals at home by myself, and then have them mixed in with like the producer or the mixing engineer.
Thank you. Any other question? We have 3 more minutes, so if you don't have a question, I have another question for you two. It's like, so in the audience, we might have a lot of students. They want to become you in the future, but they are kind of like struggling. Can they do it? So probably a couple words to encourage them if they have that inside desire to become a rapper or like a songwriter. What do you suggest them?
I suggest it may seem like it may not make sense, like what you may kind of feel like inside. It may not make sense, like logically. But I think if you just keep kind of exploring that kind of like inner, intuitive, like kind of like, it's like a little flame. You know what I mean? It's like a little like flame in you. If you can somehow like kind of tune into that, that will never like treat you bad. You know what I mean? It may put you in like tough situations, but you just kind of have to push through it if you are really in tune with that flame, and you're like, and if other people are also like kind of logically trying to be like, oh, that makes no sense. How come you would do that? You just have to like kind of accept maybe they don't understand that you have that flame in you, or they are living a different path from you. So it's like, just if you somehow come across that thing that's like kind of calling you, I think you just have to kind of trust that thing. And yeah, like I think in order to like also tap into that, I think also being here in Vancouver, I mean, I don't go hiking a lot, but I spend a lot of time outside. So I think just kind of being in tune with just like the sea and the sky and like the mountain, I do think that's how you kind of can tap into that flame, like a legit, like it's kind of like just kind of being out with nature. I feel like really does help in terms of how to being sensitive to that flame. You know what I mean? But that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think if you want to be an artist, you get to define what being an artist means. You might see other people or society or labels might tell you, like, if you want to be an artist, you got to fit into that box. But that's just because they want to market you. And, you know, if you want to be an artist, decide what that means for you and be proud of who you are, be proud of what you are able to create. And like, you know, like Scope was saying, don't let other people like judge you for things that you want to do or things that you want to express, as long as you're not like harming anybody in the process. And learn to be confident and to accept compliments. This took me so many years to master. But yeah, like if somebody comes up to you and says, I love that song, that's amazing, don't feel the need to refute it. Like accept it, embrace it, you know, add it to your self-esteem, and just be open, be kind, be patient with yourself. It's very easy to be self-critical, to compare yourself with other artists that are up and coming, but every single person is on their own journey. Everything you see on social media is a highlight reel. So if you want to be an artist, you know, focus on you, focus on celebrating any sort of milestone that you have, and loving yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. And then thank you very much for Jacqueline. We are so proud of you to be the Juno winner. And then we also thank Scope letting us know yellow is not in between of red and green. It is the new gold. Ooh. Thank you very much for today's time. And they will stick around. And if you have any more questions, you can ask them personally. And then before you leave, like we do have like you are going to see the barcode in the front door. Like we need your feedback because we want to be better. This year is our second year, and then next year we want to be stronger and then bigger and then better. So if you have any feedback, please let us know. thank you very much for being here today. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.